Hello and welcome back to Rams Talk Podcast. Well, you know why we're here. The trigger has been pulled. Paul Warne has been sacked as Derby County's manager after some really poor performances and some poor runs of form across the last month. He's gone, and we are here tonight to discuss all the fallout from that and take a look to the future because we know that we need to get a manager in quite quickly to sort this poor run out. Joining me tonight is Adam Titley. We'll also be joined by Vik Singh in a little while. Adam, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing well, thanks. Wasn't expecting the news to come out, if I'm honest. There was no little hints, no rumours circulating. So I think it kind of shocked everyone, but I think that shock was also expected to come at some point. So I'm sure we'll talk about it in detail now. But yeah, good on this Friday night.
Yeah, you're right. Because normally, in this day and age, you normally get a leak or someone says there's talks happening or something's happening at Derby County, but we heard nothing. And if I'm honest, I saw the tweet and I wondered, well, I clicked through and I thought this is a bot or this is someone just trying to pull people's legs. But when I realised that it was actually real, it was quite shocking, to be honest. We did expect it, don't get me wrong, but to see that news come through, what was your initial thoughts?
I thought it was the right decision. Personally, I thought we might have made a decision based off the Norwich game in terms of making a decision the day after. I thought, well, we've given Warne the window now. So in my head, I thought we were going to give him the Norwich game to see if anything improved with a couple of players being brought in. I know we let 4 leave the club and we brought 4 in, so it's probably up for debate whether we have strengthened or just plateaued. But I thought we brought players in, let players go. Let's give Warne the Norwich game and see where we're at after that. But no, an interesting decision, and I think it made sense when people said we must have someone lined up if we're letting Warne go a day before a match. It's not very sensible Derby County that we've known over these last two years. It's a quick decision that's been made. Obviously, with letting Warne go the day before the game, obviously we're not going to have an official manager in charge of the Norwich game whether they're announced today or tomorrow morning. So it's a game where obviously the interim backroom staff have to come in. And yeah, I think all thoughts for me when it was announced went towards Norwich away tomorrow and hoping that we're going to see a performance that is completely different from what we've seen for the majority of this season.
Yeah, if you're watching along live on YouTube or on X, then get your comments in because we'll definitely read them out. Thanks, Jake, for telling me to plug my mic in. I definitely forgot to do that. Let's just talk quickly about, before we get on to tomorrow and the future, let's talk about Paul Warne, because essentially he got us back into this league and he needs credit for that. How do you think that he'll be remembered if we go forward 5-10 years and we think about this spell under Paul Warne? How do you think he'll be remembered, Adam?
I'm hoping he's remembered for the promotion, because I think, talking as someone from my generation of fans, I've only ever seen one promotion, and I've had a season ticket over 10 years now. I was a little bit too young to remember the playoff final win against West Brom, promotion to the Premier League. So the season just gone is the one that I remember the most for the promotion. I hope Paul Warne's remembered for that as well. He came in after obviously Liam Rossini had taken over the club for a couple of games, but he came in and within a year and a half, 2 years, he'd taken us back up to the Championship. We had a brand of football that we could expect. We knew what to expect from it, and he took us up with it. And that memory will always live long. That final day, Carlisle United at home, the 2-0 win, Bird and Collins getting the goals, and then obviously the pitch invasion. But yeah, for me, I'm hoping Paul Warne's remembered as the manager who took us back to the Championship after those dark days in administration. And also, I think on the flip note of him being sacked now, it means that he doesn't have that potential relegation on his CV with us. And officially, he can be remembered for the promotion that he took with us. And I'm sure he's gonna go on and take a few other clubs up from that division as well.
Yeah, exactly that. He was touted as this League One expert and he'd get us out of the division, and he went and did that at the end of the day. And that's something that we need to be thankful for. I mean, there has been times this season that we've played well under him. You look at Bristol City, Middlesbrough at home. Our home form was so good at the start of the season. That's what we were kind of building around. It just never really took off away from home. And when the performances stopped at home, that it was only a matter of time before, there was going to be pressure. There's a lot of fans that were thinking that, David Clowes wouldn't do this, Adam. Did you think that potentially Clowes would have kept him till the end of the season, or was it getting to a stage where it just had to happen? He just had to go.
I think thinking about it, trying to put yourself in David Clowes' shoes, I think the run of form, the 8 losses in a row, definitely didn't help the decision at all. Because I think if we'd have had that 8 losses in a row run in November, in December, the same decision would have been reached, maybe even a little bit earlier. But because it's happened in January, if a club ever sacks a manager in January, you saw Carlisle United did it on the final day and they come under a lot of stick. Derby would have been in that position where you've either spent a little bit of the window, sacked the manager, and now you've got to tear up your recruitment plans and try and get a manager in quick enough fashion that he can then bring players in that suit his style. So I think to make the decision now, I think was quite sensible. It's sensible Derby County, like we've known under David Clowes. It's decisions that you understand the reasonings for, whether you agree with them or not, it's your opinion, but you can understand why it happened now. I think if we'd have sacked him mid-window, I think then there would have been the questions around, well, what's the recruitment strategy going to be now? I know we didn't recruit loads of players, but I think you could see there was a strategy. We replaced cash in, we brought in a striker. So I think it was the right decision to be made, and I can understand David Clowes making it at this point. I think if we'd have kept him to the end of the season, like I mentioned earlier, I think we would have had the worry of we could have been relegated, and that's what Paul Warne might have 50% been remembered for. And I think also the decision needs to be made, and I know a lot of fans wanted it to be made as well, because for me personally, the club was heading in the direction of relegation to League One, unfortunately, and that was the direction it was going unless something drastically changed. And I think, I assume David Clowes and the higher ups at Derby County saw that as well, and also it's probably forced their hand a little with other clubs around us making that decision either a month ago or a couple of weeks ago, which has resulted in them having an upturn of form, different recruitment strategies, and Derby were sort of getting lost in amongst that relegation zone, I think. So the decision to be made is a right one. I think at the time, yes, with Norwich away being the next day and apparently Paul Warne having taken the training session, I think we need a little bit more clarity on that. I don't think we know everything about how the decision was made, and we may not find that out. But I think if you put Norwich away aside, it's probably the right time. You're giving him the window, see if any more players can be brought in. Maybe him as a manager and his style of play affected players being brought in. Maybe it didn't, but I think, to let him go after the window is probably the right decision. The run of form definitely didn't help, but I think that January transfer window pretty much made him unsackable, I think, at Derby County in terms of having a recruitment plan in place as well. So for me, I can definitely understand the timing to let him go.
Yeah, and of course, in these situations, whenever anything happens, there's always rumours. There's rumours that he was taken off of the bus to be sacked and stuff like this. But factually, he's been sacked a day before a league game, which for me does seem quite strange. Why has it not happened midweek? Why has it not happened straight after the loss against Sheffield United? There are obviously things that will come out in the wash, but for now, we've obviously, like I said, we've got to thank Paul Warne for getting us back into the division. But now it's time to look forward to hopefully a different brand of football, a different style, some new ideas, because I definitely think that this squad and this club needs them at the moment. With regards to obviously the sacking that's come out today, it's obviously come from the top. We've seen the note and the message that's come out from David Clowes, which is heartfelt for Paul Warne. You can tell that they got on. I remember seeing David Clowes after the first game at Cambridge United away, and he was beaming to get Paul Warne. I think he was so happy that he had Paul Warne as a manager. And ultimately, it ended in us getting promoted. Now, the next chapter, and this chapter, is him kind of moving on. And I did feel kind of the heartfelt message from David Clowes. And ultimately, it's come down to football reasons why he's kind of moving on. There has, Adam, been some criticism though of the board of Stephen Pearce, of David Clowes, that necessarily they don't have the kind of the footballing knowledge. And do you think potentially that's something that's played a part in it happening today? Because doesn't a footballing person understand the impact that this potentially has on the squad tomorrow? Because really tomorrow is such an important game to stop this rot of results. Do you think that potentially, that decision was wrong from Clowes and from Pearce in terms of the timing?
I think it's difficult because as fans will never fully understand the communication which is had between owner and the higher ups at Derby County and the manager and staff and things like that. So I think it's hard to judge. I think until we see that communication between the club and the fans in either an update, I presume we'll see an update when a new manager is announced in terms of our expectations for the remainder of the season, and also the manner in which Paul Warne was relieved of his duties as manager. And I expect to see some communication from the club either post the Norwich game or just before. I think maybe I'd expect it to go a little bit quiet for now and let the players focus on the game and the staff focus on the game after it, which is incredibly difficult, obviously, after the manager's let go, and especially with it being an overnight game for the players. Obviously, the squad, I presume, will have travelled down today, stayed overnight ahead of the game, with it being a long journey. So it definitely doesn't help in that sense, because you can't really take your focus away from it. But I think it's hard to judge on these decisions that are made and have opinions on, things that go on at the club. I think it's hard to judge. You'll never fully understand everything that goes on. And I think until we see some communication come out in terms of an update on what's our expectations going forward, or an update when a new manager is announced, I think it's hard to judge as of yet. I think it was interesting that on the phone in show on Radio Derby that they mentioned about a chairman either coming in or a director of football along those lines. I think that's an interesting point in terms of, like they said, it bridges that gap between the footballing side and footballing staff and the higher ups. Now, I'm not going to claim to know the understanding of how a football club works or anything like that, or the inner workings, but yeah, I think that's an interesting point and one definitely to think about when having a chairman or a director of football that could impact the playing style, because I think it has been quite clear that it's been pretty much the direct link between Warne and David Clowes. Warne said in his interviews that I think the only communication he has is he texts Clowes the team ahead of the game or something along those lines, which must be great for Clowes as a fan, getting the early insight on the team and knowing who's in the starting 11. But yeah, I think it's that clear there's that direct link between the owner and the manager, and it will be interesting to see whether going forward Derby County change it up slightly, maybe with a chairman or a director of football to sort of bridge that gap and have someone as basically the middleman. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see, but like I said, probably very hard to judge as fans, I think.
Yeah, lots going off in the comments on YouTube and X. I'm looking at them all. I think potentially I'll come back to them later because there's a lot of chat about who the new man should be in the dugout. We'll obviously see probably in the next 24, 48 hours. That's my prediction anyway. But Adam, what we do know is that Hamshaw and Jake Buxton and Bradley Johnson will be taking the team tomorrow. If I'm honest, I was quite confused that Hamshaw was in that group. He's obviously Warne's man. They're close friends. They've worked together previously. This team essentially came together, didn't they? Whenever Warne was talking about management and tactics, he would always refer to the team, him, Richie Barker, Hamshaw and other members of the team. Do you find that strange that Hamshaw is going to be on the touchline tomorrow?
Yeah, I do. I find it quite odd. I think once again it goes down to that communication between the club and the fans about. There's definitely a question there about, well, how has that come about? Has Paul Warne and Matt Hamshaw had a conversation, and Matt Hamshaw said he's been offered the opportunity to manage the game and he'd like to take that opportunity, and Paul Warne's agreed with him on there? Or is maybe Richie Barker and Paul Warne more of a duo than a trio with Matt Hamshaw coming in. I think it's very interesting, and also very interesting in terms of how we're actually going to play, the team that's going to line up. I think it would speak volumes if Matt Hamshaw went the complete opposite direction of how Paul Warne's taken this team, in terms of if Matt Hamshaw rolls back the years and pulls out a 4-3-3 and we've got Kenzo Aldmine playing the attacking midfield role. I think that would speak volumes about Matt Hamshaw's take on this Derby County team when being under another manager. So I think it'd be very interesting. I think also, like Jake's just pointed out, a little bit of stability as well. You need someone to lead them players, a familiar face as well, because I think if you throw Jake Buxton and Bradley Johnson in the deep end for the game tomorrow and they come in and completely try and change it, I think we could lose that defensive stability we've had. I think tomorrow's game, it becomes almost a bit of an unknown in terms of how we play. I think if we win, you can say, Matt Hamshaw's had this effect on the team where he's changed a couple of things and the team feel a little bit more confident. But then if we lose, then I think everybody will turn around and say, well, Matt Hamshaw's played the same sort of style as Paul Warne. And so, yeah, I'm very interested by it. I think, yeah, it definitely puzzled me when it was announced, but completely understand in terms of keeping a little bit of stability. And like I said about the team travelling down the night before for such a long away game, they probably need a familiar face, or I think it'd be quite a rare occasion for the team to travel down the coach with no manager and no coaching staff. So yeah, I think it'd be very interesting to see how tomorrow pans out, and I think it's going to be a bit of a freak game as well. I don't think we're going to be able to predict what goes on.
Yeah, and as you see in these situations, and I guess when a more permanent manager is in place, there will be changes to personnel, to formations, to methodology. And one thing that's come up and has come up in the comments, Adam, is captaincy. We've talked about it previously on this pod, and I think it's debated through the fan base in terms of who should wear the armband. Have we actually got any born leaders within this group? Do you think Hamshaw and the team will do something tomorrow in that respect? Would they put the armband on someone new?
I think it would be an interesting season. If I'm right in saying it's Mendes Lang who's mainly been given the captaincy this season, I think, or has definitely been preferred when Paul won. But for me, I just have to go with Craig Forsyth. I think the player's obviously been with us over a decade. I think at this moment, like I've gone on about stability, for tomorrow's game, I'd give it Craig Forsyth. I think a player who's vocal on the pitch, may not necessarily be the player who everything goes through in terms of attacking options, but a solid player and someone that I think any of the younger players who might be included in the squad tomorrow can look up to. And I think that would be my decision, either Craig Forsyth, or I know a few people in the comments have said Matt Clark. I think that would be maybe chucking Matt Clark in the deep end a little bit. But for me, Craig Forsyth tomorrow should be the captain. I think the fans would get behind that as well. And I think the atmosphere will play a huge part in tomorrow's result.
Vik has joined us. Thanks for joining us, Vik. You said you'd be late, so we're not going to hammer you for being late. But I'm going to give you a tough question because Adam's been talking quite a bit. If you were in charge of this Derby team tomorrow against Norwich, you know the team, you know their capabilities, what would you do? What would be the plan? You can take that question as you wish. You can tell me about your starting team. You can tell me about how you'd set up, how you'd play. But what would you do to try and galvanise this group?
I think you've got to start off by taking the handbrake off, if I'm honest. I think it's more or less a free hit tomorrow. So if you go out, just go out with all guns blazing. Just let the team express themselves the way they want to. I think the team's been restricted in the way that we've sort of set up in previous games. I think if we're going to go for it, we could look at various different formations, 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1, however you want to play it. We can mix it all up. But yeah, I think we've got to lift the handbrake up. It's a free hit. So let's just go out there, show what we can do from an attacking point of view, because defensively, we know we're pretty sound. Let's go out there, show what we can do. The players that are available, let's get Salverson on the pitch. Let's get Yates playing up top. Let's see the new lad in centre-back with the Matt Clark, so we can develop a partnership there. We're looking at then your left-back situation. I don't know if Elder's fit or not. If he's fit, start him. You go to your midfield conundrum. So then you've obviously got Ibu Adams. I'd start Ibu Adams, David Ozo if they're fully fit. Get them straight in. Let's get the partnership rocking and give Admine a go with obviously Armstrong in the wing, waiting in the wings to come off as a sub appearance. But let's just go for it. We've got nothing to lose. And yeah, let's just see what this team can do from an attacking point of view when the handbrake's lifted off. Because one thing we've been very critical of Paul Warne is the fact that we haven't lifted that handbrake up enough. So let's see what we can do when it's finally off, and let's express ourselves and just go out there and enjoy our football.
Adam, would you agree with Vik that it's a bit of a free hit tomorrow?
Yeah, massively. Completely agree with Vik. Like I said earlier, I think it's an unpredictable game tomorrow. I'd rather us lose 5-0 and we'll have taken the handbrake off, really gone for it attacking wise, than us lose 5-0 and play the same style of play. I think that's what the fans want as well at this moment, us to go for it and show a little bit about ourselves in that, yeah, we can stay up in this division, we can challenge teams in this division, because I think recently we've been far too easily beaten in them 1-0 losses and so on and so forth. Teams haven't had to get out of first gear against us, and I think tomorrow I'd like to see us give Norwich a game. Like I said, if we lose 5-0, we lose 5-0, but if we've had a couple of one-on-ones, some good opportunities, not necessarily relied on going down the middle, but not necessarily relied on going out wide, but played through the middle a little bit, I'll be more than happy with that. I know, yeah, like Vik said, a bit of a free hit, but take the handbrake off. Let's go a little bit attacking and let's get the fans back behind the team fully and get an atmosphere back, I think, a little bit as well, because I think there's almost that expectation away from home that we're not going to get anything, but that can completely change now with a new manager and under a new style of play.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, the effect it will have on the fan base is going to be massive. Obviously, I kind of wish it was a home game to be able to get the real kind of benefit from it, but we will see that hopefully when a new manager comes in the door. And it was deafening, really, on Saturday. And obviously, Klaus have heard that from the South Stand, Vik. The chance of your football is shocking. I'm not going to swear.
I thought you was.
We're PG. We're PG. We're a PG podcast. We're never ever going to swear. I think someone did once, and all of us were like, "Ooh, we're going to have to edit that out." But yeah, I mean, do you feel the fans helped this happen, Vik? Because, like I say, those chants from the South Stand, it wasn't just 2, 3, 4, even 50 people. It was a large portion of that South Stand that were chanting that, and it was tough to hear.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I think had we not voiced our concerns, I think he might still be in a job. I just think that he was very much a David Klaus sort of man. Again, off the pitch, he's a really nice guy. On the pitch, it just didn't seem to work for us, and I think there has to be a bit of credit has to go to sort of the fans for voicing their opinion. I also do think he probably lost the dressing room as well. As much as we say that they worked hard and they were playing for him under him, there's no way we can go on such a bad run if the players didn't believe in what the manager was trying to do. And like we said before, with Warne, it's always changing from game to game, and nothing really made sense. So I think the fans did have a part to play. I mean, not even just the South Stand. I've heard the North, even the East Stand, just saying the same chant, and fans had probably had enough. I think we started to see the cracks after the Leeds away game with some of the comments he was making about the sugar on top and all that. And I think there was probably just no way, there was no return from that, was there really? So, yeah, I think the fans voice their opinion, and rightly so, because I think the team deserved to be criticised and Warne deserved to be criticised. But at the same time, it was ultimately down to Stephen Pearce and David Klaus to make that decision, and they've made it now. In my opinion, I think they should have made it a bit earlier, just because I think we could have had a bit of a transfer window to try and get decent players in. But having said that, it's more of a clean slate for whoever decides to come in now, whoever's been chosen to come in now. It's a short-term or a long-term appointment to have a clean slate. Fans need to be behind whoever comes in now. And let's try and focus on the key aim here, which is to survive in the Championship, and then we can sort of kick on, reevaluate, and then kick on in the summer from there. So, yeah, the fans did their bit, but I think Paul Warne didn't help himself either.
Yeah, very true. And we've got to look forward to the future now. We've got to look forward to bringing somebody in, and hopefully they can save us. We can get that new manager bounce that Oxford got with Gary Rowett. We're going to talk about potential people coming in now, Adam. If you are live on YouTube and X, tell us who you want and I'll read them all out, as long as they're they're solid options and not Jose Mourinho or Pep Guardiola. But Adam, who springs to mind when I say next Derby County manager? Who's the first name in your head?
I'll probably go with Steve Cooper. I think that's me being 50% optimistic and 50% realistic. I think Steve Cooper isn't a Premiership manager. And I think some of the names we've been linked with are, and I think they're just a little bit too far of a reach for us to make, and probably a little bit too costly as well, considering the fact we could be in the 3rd division next season based on what the table says. So I'd go with Steve Cooper. I think a manager who's got pedigree in this division, a manager who can get a team behind him and into some good form, obviously with Leicester and Nottingham Forest, also Swansea City as well. Put together a good team there, a team who at the time were probably just sort of average mid-table, low mid-table squads similar to ourselves. So I'd probably say Steve Cooper if I'm being completely honest. I quite like Gary O'Neill, but then again, I think he's coming off the back of a good couple of seasons with Wolves, if I'm right in saying that. I need to get my stats right here. But yeah, I'd like to say Gary O'Neill, but like I say, I think he might just have that Premier League pedigree, if not higher up in the Championship pedigree, and I think that's what we need to remember where we are at the moment and where the club is at.
Yeah, just looking at YouTube, Dan Cartwright says Steve McLaren or Lee Carsley with Steve Round as director of football, and Parry says Carsley. Matthew Smith says Gerrard has the pull for loans and good connections. Mark Johnson, Cooper and Carsley. Jake's constantly in the messages and in the comments says Vik Singh, and that's the only thing that I can probably agree with that Jake said all evening. Damo McDermott says Steve Cooper, agreeing with Adam. Ryan Jono says Ryan Lowe. We've also got some calls for McLaren Part 3. I'm not sure if I can go through. Actually, I can go through McLaren Ball one more time. Actually, yeah, I can get on board with that. Vic, what are you thinking?
It's hard to look past Steve Cooper, to be honest. I think out of the managers that are available, I think he's probably the best option we could go for. Whether it's realistic or not is a different situation. Would he want to come to a team that's fighting relegation? Maybe not. Does he want to complete the East Midlands trio? Maybe. Depends on his ambition. Steve Cooper's a big name. Looking at the other options, obviously being the overly ambitious person that I am, Sean Dyche is also another name that we could sort of go for. However, I just think his style of football is pretty similar to what we've already seen with Warne. Steven Gerrard, I've seen that. No, I don't think we should go for Gerrard. I just don't think he's what we need for a relegation dogfight. And we've been down this road with Lampard already. Someone mentioned Jody Morris. He's at Coventry. That's a good chat, to be fair, but he's at Coventry with Lampard anyway. And Rob Edwards is another outside shout. I just think that he knows what it takes to sort of be in this division. He's took Luton up from it. Maybe he can get a tune out of this side. But I think if I really had to pick out of the bunch, I think Steve Cooper's a solid one for us. I just think there's a bit of realistic ambition there as well, because there's a long-term vision. If we're looking short-term, no other person than Neil Warnock to keep us in the league, is there really? So, yeah, it depends on the sort of fix that we're going for. Are we going for long-term ambition, or if we're going for a short-term fix with a view to long-term in the summer?
Yeah, and in these situations, of course, the bookmakers will have their say and put their odds out. And at the moment, Richie Wellens is near odds-on favourite, actually. It's, I mean, normally when that's sure, it's a case of they think something's in it. Adam, he's obviously had a fantastic time over the last couple of months at Orient. He's really kind of pulling up some trees there. Is that the kind of name that would inspire you, or is that more of a Paul Warne mould League One manager?
I think it's difficult. I'm not massively familiar with Leyton Orient style. I've seen them play this season in person, actually. I thought they did look a decent side, and he's obviously doing very well with them on the budget that they have and how well they're playing. It's definitely a risk. We've seen Luton obviously hire the Wycombe Wanderers manager. It's a risk in terms of, has he just built up a squad that's good enough to then challenge at the top end of League One? It's definitely more of that long-term vision with him being nearly odds-on favourite. he's definitely more. He's one of the managers that would probably offer a 3-year deal in front of, and hope that at the end of that, he's got us mid-table / pushing for that top 10. For me personally, I want a manager to come in and just keep us up, no matter who that is, whether it is costly, whether it is a project manager. I'd like a manager to come in and just keep us up, and then we review it in 6 months' time. So obviously, Richie Wellens probably doesn't fit that billing, as he's more of a project manager in terms of he'll be around for the next 3 or 4 years. In terms of inspiring me, it does seem what he's done at Leyton Orient, but there's always that risk of that it might not work again. What he's done, he's not proven at this level compared to the other names that are linked with us. I think the difficulty is the names that we're being linked with aren't proven in a relegation battle in the Championship per se. They're either managers who've got pedigree at getting teams out of this division via the playoffs or automatic promotion, managers who've had a stint in the Premier League. None of them are managers who've got a track record of keeping clubs up. In the Championship, obviously, I know we jokingly mentioned Neil Warnock, but he was probably that mould of manager where for 7 to 10 years, he was that manager where if you're in a relegation battle, he was the first name on the list to hire. And I think he knew that himself as well, seeing the job that he obviously most recently did with Huddersfield, keeping them up in the Championship. So, yeah, I think Richie Wellens would be a good choice. I can understand why I would sign him. I think cost would probably be the same, considering we'd probably have to buy him off Orient as well. But yeah, definitely an interesting one. I think hard to judge, and especially with the games remaining, it worries me. I know we've got about half season just under that, but he has to kind of have an instant impact. Because say if we have one loss or something similar like that, then we could be in trouble. But be a couple of points adrift. But hopefully whoever comes in can change the form for us.
Yeah, and of course we'll be wishing the new manager all the best when they come in. There's been some debate in the comments about short-term versus long-term appointment. It feels as though they've already got something lined up, Vik, in all honesty. So Jake said in the comments that this episode might be redundant come Sunday by our next episode. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens with that one. I think all we can do tomorrow is obviously get behind the lads, be loud and proud in the stands. Everyone that's travelling, be sure to back this team, and hopefully we just see some positives there. Maybe we'll go and win 5-0 and Hampshire will get the job on a full-time basis. But yeah, I think there's a lot of names being mentioned, and of course there's a lot of interest in the Derby County job because they are a big club. It doesn't matter where we are, whether we're in League One, whether we're where we are in the Championship. There's always going to be kind of interest in this football club because its fan base is massive. Obviously got the Cat 1 Academy and the infrastructure is just fantastic. Vik, we may see a new manager in the next 48 hours. What would be your words to them, your wise words to get them going in this job?
Just as soon as he takes over, whoever that may be, just make sure that the style of play is good. But the most important thing is do whatever you can to keep us in this division. That's the most important thing. The fans will support you whatever happens. Just make sure that we're fighting for every ball, we're winning everything, we're actually going out there getting points on the board, and the main aim is survival. If we can just survive this season, we can reevaluate in the summer and kick on from there. But the fans are behind you. Whatever you do, just make sure that they give us a reason to be proud of the players on the pitch, and make sure the players are proud to wear that shirt and represent this club to the highest esteem that you can. And let's stay up and let's become Championship Rams next season as well.
Adam, anything to add to that?
Yeah, just echo what Vik said there. Hopefully we're Championship Rams next season, not Champion Rams next season. Oh wow, yeah. Yeah, that's all I've got to say there before I mess up my words again.
Well, we appreciate everyone joining us. There's over 1,500 people watching live, which is absolutely staggering. So thanks so much for spending your Friday night with us. We hope to be back with a new manager who knows, we might be talking about our second away win of the season on Sunday. Lots to talk about, lots to digest. Get behind the team. Now is when Derby County really need those loud and proud fans. We'll see you on Sunday. It's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Up the Rams. Goodbye from me.